Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new Minisode from Dissonant.
Hell yeah.
Bringing back the Minisodes with Dom and Trix.
Yeah, Dominatrix.
Ritz is out with illness, so we are just taking over this week. We have pushed our Grief Eater Bong Ripper episode to next week. Hopefully, we can do it then.
Yep.
In the meantime, we got some films to talk about.
Yeah. We did what we were going to do on Halloween, and we watched both Suspiria films.
Yes, and now the Jessica Harper Fanclub can exist.
Yes. More than one member.
Oh, are you a fan now too?
Yeah, I'll say that.
Excellent. I like that. Suspiria 1997 and Suspiria 2018. They're very different films.
1977, not 97.
Did I say 97? I'm sorry, 77.
Yeah. Very, very different films.
And I think the conceit we were going for is the soundtracks, and they're very distinct soundtracks, which is cool. But I think, talking about the films themselves is not bad either.
Yeah.
Because, we got Goblin, famous Italian band, doing a lot of, prog, synth, goth stuff.
Yeah, it's very avant-garde.
Then,
you could tell that they were slaving over the Moog for this album.
Yeah. A lot of percussion that's really cool. Just chanting and vocals and
patch cables and a heavy haze of cigarette smoke,
Yes. Probably some drugs in there too.
Oh, of course. There had to be drugs in making of both of these movies.
And then you have the Thom Yorke soundtrack, this is finally how Thom Yorke gets on the podcast.
Yes.
Been almost 100 episodes overall, and now getting to Mr. Yorke of Radiohead.
Yes.
This is the first time he's done a soundtrack or anything really outside of
oh jeez,
or things like that.
Yes.
And they're both really good soundtracks, both in different ways.
Yes, very different ways.
And they both highlight the film. I think the original really carries the film in a way, but the other one still supports it really well.
Yeah.
So I've seen both of them before, and
this is my first time watching both of them.
Your first time watching both of them. You watched them both yesterday.
Today, yes.
It's after midnight, but
yeah.
And I watched them about 24 hours ago. I started watching. So let's see. Can you tell me what you know of the first Suspiria?
So Jessica Harper's character is from America, and she gets invited to this dance school in Germany that's very expensive, it seems. And there's a lot of grisly murders and supernatural doings on the campus of the school, with the worms and the maggots raining from the sky. And there was that scene with the razor wire, which that's one of the most brutal scenes in a horror movie I think I've ever seen, if I'm going to be honest.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
It's the classic, if it doesn't exist in the camera, it's not there until it's there.
Yeah.
If she had just looked, she would have seen it.
Yes.
Surprise. Is there.
And it turns out that the whole school is run by a coven of witches. And Jessica Harper discovers that they don't actually leave the school, and they go into a secret room because she can tell that they're walking in the wrong wing. And the movie ends with her stabbing the head of the coven, who is glowing in the moonlight,
but also invisible otherwise.
Yes.
So old, she's transcended human existence, except for when she hasn't.
Yeah.
Then she does the stabbing. Whole school starts to collapse, and then she leaves.
And roll credits.
Yeah, it shows the building on fire. Roll credits. It is a simple movie in a sense.
Indeed, yeah.
It's one that I like. I'm a part of the cult fandom because A, I like Jessica Harper. B, I really like the aesthetics, the use of colors, especially.
Yeah, it's a very colorful film. The MC Escher room, I thought was really pretty.
Yes, the use of oranges and blues and magentas.
Yeah.
And of course, the Goblin soundtrack too is a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
How there are scenes I can just imagine taking the whole soundtrack out and it just kind of being like a shot of something that doesn't really build anything.
Yeah.
but all these hallway shots, all these other things start making sense, style and like a tone because that soundtrack is there. And the what are they using, like chimes or?
Yeah, there's it's like some sort of glockenspiel, and definitely heavy on the Moog synthesizer too.
Yeah, this is like peak, like no, this is even before like the Wendy Carlos of like The Shining and like Tron.
Yeah. Yes.
This is like going hard on that stuff.
Yeah, and it really channels that same kind of vibe as the Wendy Carlos soundtracks.
But like it's the funny thing of like this movie is so like there's not a lot that happens. It's like she's there in school, she makes some friends, creepy stuff happens. They kind of investigate it. Oh man, they're witches.
Yeah, it's very simple in its plot, and it doesn't it leaves so many unanswered questions, which is kind of good in that kind of horror sense.
Yeah, like it tries to answer some things and like establish something.
Yeah,
but, like it's kind of just like, here, let me go to somebody who just explains it all to me.
Yeah,
it's like the most basic conceit of it is just like, oh, let me go talk to a guy who knows about like witches and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, female dominated cast, very few male characters or like male characters of importance.
Yes.
And like the thing I think is interesting is just how much they managed to do without there being like an overarching story besides that.
Yeah. It's very much a tone piece in that way, where it just kind of sets a scene and lets it play out, and it's very suspenseful.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, oh, that's a school, creepy things are happening. Like, you know, there's no real like, oh man, you get to learn all about Sarah and her arc and everything. Like, you learn pieces, but
yeah,
like I feel like, you know, if they had really tried to bolster that stuff in this version, it would have felt really.
Absolutely.
You just get kind of glimpses, and I think that's the cool thing of like you get to learn glimpses of who like Pat Hingle is.
Yeah,
and I love that she's named Pat Hingle.
Yeah,
choice of a name because that's an actor's name, but also just like. She's the only one that gets like a last name so prominently said.
Yeah.
You get Susie Bannion, but they barely say the last name.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, the remake is like, let's take all of that and like really dive deep into it and do it again.
Yeah. And that kind of destroys some of the horror of the original, if that makes sense. Like if you had to watch the remake after the first one, I feel like you wouldn't have as many questions about the first movie, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the remake is kind of predicated on the idea that you've seen the original.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Like you just know witches. Okay.
I would like to say that a lot of good horror focuses on what you don't see and hear as opposed to what you do see and hear. And leaving it up to the imagination, because the imagination of a human is far more cruel than any filmmaker.
That is true. However, I feel like this movie does some things that come closer, that make things more visceral than a lot do.
Yeah, like I got the fucking creeps during the bug scene. I do not do bugs well.
In the original movie or the remake?
In the original.
Yeah, the maggot scene. Yeah, that's one of those things that's like, why is that happening? Oh, I guess. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like a thing you remember because it's kind of random, but also like visually interesting.
I also distinctly remember during the first murder seeing a fucking rubber head and just it being like a very obvious rubber head.
Okay.
And like I appreciate that thing in like in old horror movies, but like it's one of those things where if you watch it on like a modern streaming service and like 1080p or 4K HD, that sort of thing, it removes the magic.
Although the one thing that is cool still is the reveal of like the killer of the first one, where it's just like he's just looking out the window, Pat, and you know, all of a sudden you just see a pair of eyes just show up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's actually a really cool effect.
It is.
All the features, just eyes.
Yeah.
And that murder is so gruesome.
It is.
Like, okay, here's the tone. It doesn't quite go
Yeah.
back to that tone. Like, it doesn't get as hardcore, really. But
No.
that first just whole stabbing scene is just so more graphic.
It's visceral.
Yeah. Got so many stabs to the chest that the heart's just exposed.
Yeah. And the stabs to the heart.
Not just
Like
stabs
that.
to the heart, even it goes further than
Yeah.
that, too.
Yeah. And like that bordered on like trauma levels of horror movies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it gave me like trauma horror movie vibes, which Trauma is a fairly famous horror movie studio that focuses on like a lot of like the super gory shit.
Also, they're kind of like comedy parody, like not taking itself too seriously.
Yeah, like very much B horror movies.
Yeah. Where it's like, this is just we gotta shock the audience. We gotta make it so visceral.
Yeah. And like I got that vibe from some of the scenes in this movie.
It's like, it's not just the stabbing, and it's like, oh, she falls through stained glass and gets hanged, and
Yeah, the hanging was like the particularly gruesome part for me.
then you find
As weird as
sure.
I was just gonna say, as weird as that sounds for me.
I mean, that's fair. The gruesome thing to me too is the thing when, like, oh, then you find out that the glass shattering actually also killed her friend.
Yeah.
And a fucking shard of glass through the face.
Yeah.
It kind of just calms down, and it's like, oh yeah, school's kind of creepy. You know, you got I don't know, did they like hex her, Jessica Harper, in that scene with the knife? I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, did they?
I think so.
And
Seems like it.
yeah, she's like, yeah, I feel sick, but then they make her dance anyway.
Yeah. And she collapses with the nosebleed.
That's really the only dancing in the movie.
Yeah. It's not as dance oriented as the remake.
Yeah, I mean, interesting that, you know, it's a dance subject, but dancing is very little of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, she collapses, and, you know, they kind of have this thing where it's like she's trying to live off campus and be independent, but they kind of force her to come on campus now, and
Yeah.
they start giving her like a diet, and very clearly they're like doing something to her.
Yeah, like the wine to thicken her blood.
Yeah. And like they're drugging her to sleep every night.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, her roommate Sarah is doing all this investigation because her friend was Pat, and Pat had all these notes and things and ideas about what was happening, and Susie was kind of left with it.
Yeah.
So Susie's trying to get Sarah was left with notes from Pat, and Sarah's trying to get Susie involved with it, but Susie is having issues. Susie being Jessica Harper's character.
Yes.
The drugging and everything.
Yeah.
That when, you know, Susie eventually starts to go missing and no one's heard from her, hey, really it's just down to Jessica Harper's character to take care of it.
Yeah.
Then she, you know, investigates witches and all the notes that were left to her, and not really much. Actually, everything kind of went away, but there's like a note that's like 40 steps or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And that's like the amount of steps that it was into the room.
Right, because they have a conversation about like, oh, if they're going to the right, then they're leaving the school, but they're going to the left, and you go to the left and count the steps, then you'll wind up wherever they are.
Yes.
And yeah, she just kind of does it, figures out what's going on, and that's the movie.
Yeah.
She talks to a psychologist, and the psychologist's like, you know, I don't believe in witches. And the guy's like, but here, my friend does. Talk to him.
Yeah.
And that's about all we get in terms of like explanation. And that's kind of nice that it's not like it's a weird kind of just a scene you could cut if you wanted to. But
yeah.
It's nice to have something.
Yeah, I get that.
But I just love how all of these elements are then just recontextualized, repurposed, and redone for the remake in every single way you can.
Oh, yes.
Because the movie starts with the remake starts with just the psychologist character becoming like a main force in the story.
Yes.
Because this is like a political thing. This is set in 77. It's a Cold War thing. It deals heavily with like the aftermath of like World War II and the Holocaust.
Yes.
And it's kind of set in the time that the movie was made, kind of giving more context to modern audiences what was going on then, to kind of give back some of that knowledge people would have had watching it when it came out, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like this time around, it's Dakota Johnson, who is the Susie character and going to school and all this stuff, except this time, you know, she's not trained. She just can dance.
Yeah.
Has worked her way to get to that school.
Yes.
Can you describe more of this story?
Uh, it's the same basic outline, but it gets it right out of the way that right off its chest that the school is run by witches, and they're the reason for the all of the weirdness. They make that very apparent.
Yeah.
And it's one of the starting interesting scenes is where it starts off in the psychiatrist office with, who is that character? I am horrible with names.
That was Patricia or Pat.
Yes, Pat. It starts off with Pat having basically a psychotic break in the psychiatrist's office and covering up everything with eyes because she thinks the witches can see her through them.
Yeah.
And
she just
then it focuses on Susie for the rest of the movie. And one of like the first very intense scenes is where she dances the lead and kills another woman with her dancing in the mirror room.
Kind of. Well, like the important thing is that like she's, you know, very new to the company, like a day or two in.
Yeah.
And the girl in this one, Olga, who was friends, who in the original was just letting her stay at her place.
Yeah.
Is now friends with the Pat character and has a lot of feelings about Pat suddenly not being there anymore.
Yeah.
And decides to quit. But
yes,
she is led magically into this mirror room, and meanwhile, Madame Blanc is like imbuing Susie with like a little bit of witch power.
Yes.
And through this is using Susie's dance, because she volunteers to be the lead with Olga gone, and that's like a big thing for like someone on their second day.
Yes.
Through the dancing, Susie is like doing like a spell or like controlling how that Olga is being like destroyed.
Yes.
A movement will like kind of push or pull or crumple or fold her like a pretzel, basically.
Yeah, and getting slammed against the walls and breaking bones inside of her.
And just squeezing her until she pisses herself.
Yeah.
Like a fucking orange or something.
Yeah.
It's really intense.
Like, yeah, it's a visceral scene.
The cutting between it is just so expert and just is designed to make you feel every bit of it.
Yeah.
And like the thing is that she's not dead either.
No.
She does not die. The staff, the witches, all go in there when it's all done and just like they just fucking stab her with meat hooks and take her away.
Yeah.
And that might be it, but then later on you learn that it's not.
Yeah, and they cut off like her hands and feet.
But then, you know, Susie's getting used to being in school and she's a natural. She's a really talented dancer. But
yes.
Taking a special interest. And meanwhile, you're kind of learning about the psychologist, Dr. Klemperer, and his struggles and his daily life. And it's really interesting portrait of like a lonely old man.
Yes.
But meanwhile, you have like all the witches in their oven and like how they talk telepathy to each other and having like two conversations at once several times.
Yes.
And you kind of learn like the politics of, you know, who are we following? Which leader is going to lead us and make us successful? But
yes.
So there's a lot of politics of the school at play. The thing I like about this is that the school feels so real. Like it feels like an organization.
Yes, it feels living and breathing in a way.
Yeah, where the original was just kind of like it's a thing and there's horror and yeah.
Yeah, and then from there more just strangeness happens. Like it's starting to haze over in my mind because it's a long movie and I was kind of spent when I watched it.
Fair.
But it then goes into like the big Volk performance.
Well, I guess the part we're kind of hazing over is like where Dr. Klemperer is like getting more and more involved because Pat's disappeared and trying to get more.
Talks to Sarah.
Sarah's not cool with it this time, and you know, all that stuff. So
yes,
performance, which is the big dance they've been kind of leading up to, happens.
And Sarah is missing for the performance
because she's investigating the
yes.
She's finally believing the doctor.
Yes, and she encounters Olga again, who has no hands and feet, and also encounters Pat, isn't it?
Yeah.
And who's basically like a zombie at this point.
And Mother Marcos briefly.
Yes, and
Strange.
yeah, and then they ruin the or Susie ruins the performance by letting Sarah back in.
No,
I think.
No, they kind of like Sarah just kind of shows up.
Yeah, that I kind of lost the plot during that scene.
Like, so basically what happens is that Sarah is like meeting all these like people, like Pat and everything, and then she tries to run away, but instead of falling into barbed wire this time, they like the witches kind of make holes in the floor.
Yeah,
temporarily. That like she just tumbles down when like breaks her leg.
yes,
that, like, the bone is exposed.
yes.
And then like the witches and the staff find her and they heal it over with the bones still kind of broken.
Mm-hmm.
And then they send her into the dance. And I don't know.
And when it gets to the jump, she re-breaks her leg, or it just starts hurting again, like the magic wears off.
Yeah, something like that. And then I mean Susie apologizes for ruining the performance because she's not jumping, and that's like a whole thing.
Yes.
But Sarah's whole leg thing is ultimately what stops it.
Yes.
And at this point, you can see like it's interesting because it's like Susie goes so quickly into being able to discuss like dance theory and how dances should be done with Madame Blanc to the point that now they're like she's taking her own direction on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And they've kind of now after this performance have kind of reached this new understanding where it's like the witches are trying to recruit Susie.
Yes.
She seems to be very aware of that and into it.
Yes.
They're now kind of communicating at that level of like, I understand what you're doing.
And at one point, one of the witches kills herself.
Yeah, so that is she was like the clairvoyant, I think.
Yes.
She was like able to like see into other people and take on their emotions or feelings. I'm not entirely sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like when someone else is feeling hurt, she'll be crying or something like that, and
yeah,
empathy thing. And like she whatever reason seems to take over Sarah briefly. In a brief moment, that's when she just stabs herself, and I don't exactly know why.
Probably because she is the elder mother or whatever.
I don't know. I don't think that's it. I don't know if there was like a maybe that's where Sarah was. Her mind, like
yeah,
suicidal, basically, or
maybe
she just because she's clairvoyant, she saw what was happening.
Yeah,
because I'd be interested to know if who she voted for in the beginning.
Yeah,
I don't remember who she voted for. There was Marcos or Blanc. Because then the movie kind of picks up from there with the doctor has been to the performance and saw everything that happened, and Susie was there, but Susie got hurt, and
yes,
he's tried to involve the police, but the police have been ineffective. The witches have been like just bewitching and hypnotizing the police, and
yeah,
just like sweep everything over. Like there's an interesting scene earlier on where they've had the police hypnotized, and the witches are just like laughing at them, just like laughing at their dick sizes specifically.
Yeah,
and they're just like, "Oh, look at this! Look, I have a gun! Ha ha ha!" So they're just humiliating the police while they're like stone still, and then they just like, "Yeah, we investigated everything. Nothing was wrong. I don't know what you're talking about."
Yep.
But then, as you kind of go along now, the doctor is pretty sure something's happening, and his whole thing is that he doesn't believe in witches, but he knows that people can group together and do crimes, and they can believe themselves to be anything they want.
Yeah.
And there's a whole thing about how, delusion is the truth you want to hear, basically. It's a lie, but it's also the truth.
Yes.
And so then we get into a scene in which, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the doctor's wife appears, Anka.
Yes.
Anka being played by Jessica Harper.
And correct, yes.
I think just my favorite cameo in a movie. Where they just have this really extended date sequence, basically.
Yeah.
But it's just so random and so odd. You can tell something is obviously off about it.
Definitely, yeah.
Because they cross through like the Berlin Wall and like the guard station without anyone stopping them, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of talk back and forth about, oh, what happened to you? What happened to you? Then Anka leads the doctor back to the dance hall and then
Yes.
disappears.
And then the doctor is abducted, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, because they've already chosen him to be the witness to what was about to happen with the.
Yes.
I guess they're trying to save Mother Marcos because her body has become decrepit.
Yes.
They were trying to preserve her and give her a new body.
And she is truly horrifying. That is
Oh,
some
yes.
great prosthetics.
Yeah, she's falling apart. Like, if we believe the original movie that the lore has any context, Mother Marcos like started the dance studio in like the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
So she would have been super old.
Yeah.
So now we get to the big climax of the movie where Susie and Blanc have this big understanding, and then Blanc thinks that Susie is accepted to be the sacrifice, basically the new body.
Yes.
And everyone's kind of prepared, and everyone's all
Blanc doesn't want it to go through.
Right, because she thinks something is wrong.
Yes.
Something does not seem right about everything happening, that it's going too well, I think, basically.
Yes.
And then there is, because Susie basically reveals, because throughout the movie, kind of calling back to the larger lore of Suspiria and other Dario Argento films, is the three mothers. The Mother Suspiriorum, Mother of Sighs is Mother of Tears, and there's something else I can't remember.
Darkness,
I think, but it's like three movies that Dario Argento made.
Yeah.
Suspiria being one of them. Mother Suspiriorum, Mother Tenebrum, Darkness one, and Mother of Tears, Mother Lacrimarum.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's revealed that Susie in this movie is the reincarnation basically of Mother Suspiriorum.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I am meant to be the queen of this, and we now have these two factions, one that has supported Madame Blanc, who has supported Susie, and the other one who supported Mother Marcos.
Mm-hmm.
And basically Susie is there to take over and install herself as the queen. However, she now deals with the Mother Marcos faction by just killing all of them.
Yes.
And in one of the most gloriously bloody climaxes in a movie.
Oh, yes.
Everyone's naked, everyone's in the middle of a ritual, and Susie, as Mother Suspiriorum, just kind of wanders around the room with like a demon, basically.
Yeah, and asks each girl what they want, and most of them want death.
Right, and then anyone else who voted for Marcos just gets the head exploded.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Mother Marcos has decapitated Madame Blanc because of the whole power struggle.
Yes.
Although at the end, it's like implied that she's still alive.
Yeah, I think it's implied that Susie saves Blanc.
Yeah. But then like you have the doctors there, like on the altar, also naked, with like this movie has some dicks in it.
Yeah.
And so you have Susie's kind of ascended. And
yes.
That's kind of how the plot resolves, that she's ascended. Then once everything's kind of figured out, you have the final scene of the movie, which is really her talking to the doctor and being like, hey, I'm sorry this happened. This wasn't meant to be like this. She just kind of politely tells him what actually happened to his wife. And then she's like, hey,
yes,
I'll just let you forget. So she just clears the doctor's mind of everything, of like all these women in his life.
Yes.
Suffering.
Yes.
That is pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's kind of beat for beat in some ways the same movie, but there's so much more deep.
Oh, absolutely.
What were you gonna say?
It's an interesting movie.
Yes, I love this movie a lot. Probably one of my favorite movies. It was in my top 20 last time I did a list.
Wow.
I just think it's such a weird thing to remake, like make it to this degree. Because this is Luca Guadagnino, who had done Call Me By Your Name in 2017, and then did this right after.
Yes.
Like a really cool, big book adaptation, and this remake of a horror film that's not even a remake as much as let's just make a more deep version.
Yeah.
it feels like such a vision of what that is and what that should be that does not feel compromised at all.
It doesn't. It feels like this is gonna be a really weird analogy, but it feels like watching them back to back is like watching the Lord of the Rings movie from the 70s, the animated one, and then watching the Peter Jackson movies.
In a way, I can see that for sure. Well, the fun part is that Dario Argento and Dario Nicolodi made Suspiria, the original one.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the original script. Becomes this big like celebration of like womanhood.
Yeah.
The fun thing about the remake too is that it also holds up the female cast almost entirely.
Yes. There's only a handful of dudes, I want to say.
There's less dudes in this movie than the original, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. I think the only ones that like come to obvious mind right now are, besides the the psychiatrist, is just the cops.
Yeah. Cops are the only ones that have like a speaking role.
Yeah.
Because you have the guy in the ritual at the end, but that's it.
Yes.
I don't even know what's going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
But then you kind of find out, should we just spoil it now?
Yeah.
That the doctor is played by Tilda Swinton also. She plays Madame Blanc and Mother Marcos, and now the Dr. Klemperer. And like you can tell if you know.
Yeah.
I think she does a really good job.
She does a great job.
Like doing all three characters, having them all be different.
Yeah.
Embodying each one. I think there's
absolutely.
There's like those scenes earlier on where you just kind of like just get to see Doctor as just like this old man who's very lonely, kind of going through his life. I mean, she's made her whole career on how androgynous she is.
Yes.
So I mean, it's fantastic how much a role like this can really do for somebody. Like if you find the right roles, that's how you get acclaim. That's how you get notice.
Yes.
How you build a career.
Absolutely.
And I don't know who else could really do it to this degree. You could obviously cast any number of people, but if you're not careful, you can end up with like, oh, it's just Nutty Professors, just X movie with a character or an actor playing 10 characters.
Yeah.
Feels like there is a reason for it. You know, it's kind of echoing the whole Three Mothers thing where she's playing 3 roles.
Yeah.
And I like that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just, I want you to get your point across because I've got a real weird aside.
Okay, I'm just saying, I just appreciate that Guadagnino went from a really male-focused movie, Only by Your Name, like mostly just Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer, to this really female-focused movie that is so much deeper than the original, like, does that stuff so much better.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I always thought it would be funny to do like a shot-for-shot remake of a famous movie, but have every character played by somebody like Danny DeVito.
I mean, there's been like little attempts because there's the infamous shot-for-shot remake of Psycho.
Yes.
And there was like that early COVID era of like Princess Bride remake.
Yeah, and like if you dive into it, like Airplane is a shot-for-shot remake of some plane disaster movie with just jokes crammed in it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely a way, I think, to like just change stuff like that and make it funnier.
Yeah.
Just keep everything else the same. Yeah, this is I wanted to talk about this also for the soundtracks. But
yes.
Like the original is so focused on like ethereal sounds and kind of witch chanting and kind of throwing you off balance and off kilter with so much avant-garde instrumentation.
Yes, very much so.
It's kind of prog rocky in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Thom Yorke is going more for like the gentleness and like the stillness, like a counterpoint to what's happening.
Yeah.
The beauty that the dancing is not.
Yes.
And I think in both cases the soundtrack was being made before the movie was shot, so they were using some.
Yeah.
I think that ends up adding back into the movie itself because it's so synced up together.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, is Thom Yorke's first ever like film composition. It's really something. Like I love the theme of it. I just really love the theme of it.
Yeah, I get that. It's a great soundtrack.
Yeah. Like I love the Goblin theme as well. The the theme of Suspiria and the Goblin version is really wondrous and creepy in a way. I'm just kind of like curious about everything, and kind of reminds me like, hey, The Exorcist was kind of popular a few years ago. Let's go a little bit in that direction. But
yeah, I can get that.
This is more just Thom Yorke doing what Thom Yorke does.
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't really go too deep into analysis and just describe the movies.
I'm a little too fried to do like deep analysis on it and like talk about like themes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But both fun movies, both movies I'm probably going to end up watching again, especially around Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've done all the Jessica Harper big movies that I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
Phantom of the Paradise, we've done Shock Treatment, and we've done these two movies.
I think Phantom of the Paradise is my favorite of the Jessica Harper movies we've done.
I mean, I think Suspiria's, the remake, is my favorite of them. But
fair enough.
3 originals, I don't know. Maybe Phantom of the Paradise. Because the original Suspiria is a cool movie, I think. I kind of like it for more aesthetic reasons and for elements of it.
Yeah.
Watching it is not as fun necessarily all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, things just kind of happen and all that's cool. But the remake really draws me in and really makes me interested in what's happening. And even watching it again, I've like felt a lot of the same emotions and surprises that I did the first time just because of how well it's made.
Yeah.
Like there's so much, like it reminds me of I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once recently, and how much I really liked that movie, and kind of being like surprised that in this modern era of movies, I still find movies that I really consider some top favorites because they are so much their own vision. They succeed at what they're doing so much.
That's good.
Because I like this remake of Suspiria. It shouldn't be a thing. There's no reason it should have happened.
There really isn't.
Like who like you could remake whatever, but who was like really clamoring for a Suspiria remake?
Nobody.
Like one was gonna happen earlier, but like from what it sounds like, it was gonna be more of a strict remake. Like about the guy who remade or who ended up remaking Halloween this time around, David Gordon Green. And the reboot of Halloween is interesting.
I've heard good things about it.
Like the first one was really interesting. I didn't see the other one, but this remake of Suspiria this way, I think, is much more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who else could have done it like this, which is what I appreciate as someone who is interested in filmmaking, finding directors who are like just putting their whole selves out there and kind of proving this is what I can do and only I can do.
Yeah,
it's a really amazing movie.
It is. I think sometime down the line I might have to steel my nerves a bit and try and watch the original on something like Mushrooms or something. Okay. I feel like that would be I feel like that would give me nightmares, but in a good way.
Perhaps, yes. I was looking at Luca Guadagnino's stuff, and looks like he's making another romance horror movie.
Huh.
And it's starring Timothée Chalamet and Jessica Harper. And David Gordon Green, the guy who was going to remake it originally.
Interesting.
So they're all in it together, and I am looking forward to whatever this is.
Cue the High School Musical music.
It's called Bones and All. Especially since the sequel to Call Me by Your Name probably isn't happening.
Yeah.
Now with
Armie Hammer.
Yeah.
Wanting to eat women.
Cannibalism kink aside, I guess. The abusive stuff too.
Yeah. It's just the fucking cannibalism kink that comes back to me.
Yeah. And I enjoyed watching it again.
Yeah, they were fun movies.
Is there much else you want to say about them?
We're obviously not doing them justice talking about them here. I watched the first Suspiria on Tubi. It's free completely. So it costs you nothing to go watch a great movie. Go watch it. And the remake is on Amazon Prime.
And I just have the home video versions because I've already seen them and I like them.
Yeah.
And I want them in my library for reference if I ever go back into filmmaking more.
Absolutely. I would like to kind of add that I think I preferred the remake to the original myself.
Yeah.
I think that the remake got into a lot more like existential and surreal horror as opposed to the original. And like I really like when my horror gets super surreal.
Yeah.
Like I'm a huge fan of like Eraserhead and that sort of thing.
Like, I'm sure if you watch this again, you can kind of see a lot of the more obvious things that Susie is mother Suspiriorum.
Oh, I'm sure I can.
Like, because it kind of plays up, she's just this prodigy who loves dancing, and she really wants to go to this dance school, but she's never really done
Yeah.
it. What's up with this? She's really good.
Yeah. And like she dances like she's possessed, really.
Yes, and again, for an actor to throw herself into that kind of a role and perform it that well,
It's impressive.
yeah. Like, Dakota Johnson isn't just like, oh, the 50 Shades lady.
Yeah.
She is a good actor. It's like the Kristen Stewart thing. Like, she's not just Bella from Twilight. She's a good actor.
No. Yeah. I will say I appreciated the nudity in the remake.
Yes.
It wasn't sexual at all, but like there were times where I felt like the scenes were meant to like outline the beauty of the female form in some points, but like not for the male gaze, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, they even have like these weird yarn costumes.
Yes.
You think would be perfect for kind of like showing some like cleavage and whatnot, but kind of shooting around that.
Yes.
And like the most you see is dicks, and like the dicks are either laughed at or are technically prosthetics.
Yes.
So it even goes to the point of like putting down the male form for the female form.
Yeah. Which I mean, I did that, so.
I mean, yeah, can't argue with that.
Yeah.
I really like this movie because it feels like something that they're trying to do, a consciously female starring and like kind of made film despite being a male director.
Yeah.
But this is like done in a way that feels as essential to the plot as anything else.
Yeah.
Because like the original, like the school is technically co-ed.
Yes.
Like, there was like a guy or two there.
Yeah, like one of them, his teeth all fell out from gingivitis, and so he had dentures and could only speak Romanian.
Well, that was like just like a manservant.
Gotcha.
The blonde guy, like the ones.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I heard he's
Yeah.
he's like clearly flirting with Susie. But yeah, this is just like, no, it's a female school. That is just what it is.
Yeah.
And to have like Tilda Swinton play the main male character as well, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a really well done kind of like, not an experiment, I don't think that's the right word, but a way of like finding a reason to focus on like female actors, and because they don't get as much attention sometimes as
Yeah.
actors do. Like, everyone talks about Timothée Chalamet and Call Me by Your Name, but who was the main female actor in that? Who remembers?
Yeah.
Like, there were, like, his mom was in that movie. There were other girls in that movie, but who played them? What are their names?
I mean, it's Timothée Chalamet. He just takes up everything on the screen with his old Xbox 360 controller customization YouTube channel.
Yes, I love that exists.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we're getting to that point now where like celebrities are just our age and they've done stupid shit like that.
It makes them feel more human.
Yes. Like, he's just this gamer boy that fell into being a really good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Suspiria. The second Suspiria is better.
I think I'll agree with that.
It's a 2.5 hour horror movie that somehow deserves being 2.5 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
It gets told in 6 acts and an epilogue, and like each of those acts is pretty short feeling. It does not feel wasted.
Yeah. It does not feel wasted at all. It's very packed.
Yeah. And just really good music, really good dancing.
Yeah.
Made me appreciate dancing more than other movies I've seen.
Yeah, and like I kind of went into this with a little bit of knowledge of dance, and so I thought it was very well accurately represented.
Because yeah, they were going for like modern era dancing, like not like a traditional ballet dancing like the original either, which I thought was nice.
Yes, that was very nice.
But I don't know what else to say.
I don't really have much to say other than watch them. They're free on services you probably already have.
Yeah. Or if you want to track down a DVD or Blu-ray, you probably could do that too.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
that was fun. It's always fun to talk movies.
for an idea that we kind of threw together last minute because of changes. I
Yep.
love the chance to watch these again. That's going to do it for us, though. Next week,
Yeah.
we should be back to regular programming. I'm Dominic. You can find me online at DACICHOCKI. My short student film Beat is on YouTube. And yeah, Trix.
I'm Trix. You can catch me on Twitter at procrastinaut_. It's like procrastinating astronaut, then underscore. I also have a Mastodon account that I somewhat use now because Elon Musk bought Twitter.
We'll see
Yeah.
about anything, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm trying to use it more. Like it's basically just Twitter for nerds, and I'm probably gonna end up just doing more of my like technical shit on it.
Fair enough.
But and catch us all at Dissonant Waves and at dissonantwaves.space.
Yeah, Ritz's stuff will be linked in the description as well. Yeah. Have a good night, Melissa Suspiriham.
Oh yeah.